Lewis Hamilton has undergone heavy testing of Ferrari machinery throughout the past couple of days. However, it didn't go without problems for the seven-time world champion. He crashed on the second day in Barcelona, and while it's just testing of cars that aren't going to be present on the grid anymore, it has a deeper meaning behind it. With Leclerc having his day disrupted by this crash, what does it really mean for Ferrari? Is it actually somehow good news that the SF23 was crashed by Hamilton? One of the hottest news topics in the past couple of days was the crash of Hamilton in Barcelona. While many believe that it was nothing too serious, it is a clear indicator that the seven-time world champion is pushing to the absolute extremes of the car to find out what is wrong. This is the 2023 version of the car, and one that wasn't really successful for the Maranello squad. Hamilton's goal is loud and clear. Find out as much as you can about the flaws of this challenger and make sure that the team will be implementing the changes that you requested for the SF25. The crash happened when Hamilton lost control of the car in the morning's part of the testing as he hit the barriers, but luckily escaped without any significant damage. The testing in Barcelona is conducted in addition to the 30 exploratory laps that Hamilton did last week in Ferrari, but with different machinery. The F175 back then, his comments were very positive, and he said that he is feeling the greatest he's ever felt in his life. Nevertheless, the team is now working hard to make sure that the adaptation process won't be disrupted by this crash. Vassar isn't worried about the current situation of Hamilton and said that he expected such a thing to happen because of the nature of the adaptation process that is in a bit of a rush. When talking about it, the Frenchman said, "I am not worried at all. Hamilton is coming with experience of this. He did almost 20 seasons in F1, and he will manage this period perfectly. The drivers have a maximum limit of 1,000 kilometers of testing that could be conducted over a certain period of time. And after the crash in Barcelona, Ferrari doesn't seem to be bothered that they packed it all into a 3-day stint for the seven-time world champion. After all, we're not talking about a rookie who needs to acclimatize himself to an F1 car for the first time, but about a legend who survived many eras throughout his career. The weather wasn't a big problem for the crash that was caused by Hamilton, but nevertheless, the seven-time world champion is now looking forward to the next stint, which is testing the 2024 Challenger in a stint that would have a run plan defined by Pirelli. After this, Hamilton will finally get his hands on the 2025 car of Ferrari in Bahrain, first on 19th of February in Fiorano, and then on the 3-day testing in Bahrain, which starts on 26th of February. The good news for Ferrari is that their driver didn't crash the SF24 to the 2024 Challenger, the one that they would need a lot moving forward with testing because they'll extract as much data as they can implement it on the 2025 car. Be that as it may, Hamilton is known to be a driver who always pushes to the limits and one who doesn't really put a lot of self-bloating over issues like this because for you to find the absolute maximum of the car's performance, you do of course need to push it to the absolute extreme. Hamilton himself has been quite aware that he needs to provide top-notch feedback to the engineers in order to understand the behavior of the car, and while he's been receiving a lot of hate for what's been going on in the past couple of years, the seven-time world champion said that he is taking notes of every weekend that he participated in since his Formula Renault days. Talking about it, he said, "Since Formula Renault, I take notes every single weekend. Every time I drive the car, I am making notes because you are not going to remember it all. There's too much going on." Obviously, Hamilton's presence in Ferrari has been blessed to a great extent by the high-profile engineers in Maranello, Adamo included, and there is no doubt that there will be lots of positive influences from his feedback on the car. However, there are still some people who might have a bit of a biased opinion regarding Hamilton's speed in the car, and as you can probably imagine, Ralf Schumacher is one of them. When talking about the adaptation of Hamilton to Ferrari, the brother of the other seven-time world champion in the sport has gone on to say that nobody can help the Brit because of his age and the way he is unable to adapt to the newly regulated cars. Furthermore, Ralf said Vassar won't really be able to help Hamilton just as Toto Wolff couldn't this year. Neither of them is responsible for the design of the car. In conclusion, Lewis has to adapt to the driving characteristics of the car and not the other way around. Today, the cars are heavier and slow to drive. There is less mechanical grip. That means you have to change your driving style, especially in the braking zones, and that is exactly where Lewis lost time to Russell. It was particularly evident in qualifying that Lewis often no longer knew exactly how to brake. That is why he often had problems hitting the apex. He was used to braking extremely late, but that was no longer possible with the Mercedes. Hamilton is getting adjusted to the car. The fact that he required changes to the challengers he is going to drive during testing, as well as the one he'll participate in 2025, such as the cockpit and the pedal position, goes to show that he is fully committed to winning the championship in the first chance possible. Of course, it's easier for him to get across the red line of the maximum that the car allows because he is not familiar with the boundaries of the SF23 like Leclerc, but nevertheless, it's not something that should be discouraging Ferrari in the long term. Quite the contrary, in fact, it should encourage them that Hamilton is looking like his old self. While we can't compare the heaviness of this crash and the one Antonelli had in Monza during FP1 in 2024 driving the W05, they have the same nature, trying to learn the absolute limits of the car. It is a risk that the team knew they were taking because they wanted to rush Hamilton's adaptation process to the absolute maximum. That means that all of the simulator adaptation has likely been skipped, and the process has been brought to the direct testing of actual cars on the track. It was to be expected given the fact that Hamilton is not really a big fan of the simulator work, and furthermore, he wasn't released earlier from Mercedes to do the tire test with the SF24 in Abu Dhabi, which would have been highly beneficial for the 7-time world champion to do. Still, the crash disrupted Leclerc's testing, and while the team isn't missing too much out on this data because he's been driving it for 1 full year, they do need everything they can get from this version of the car in order to find a hidden jack in the sleeve for the upcoming season. But still, the crash is not something that needs to be overlooked, and even though the 2025 Challenger will be a brand new car with 99% different components, the team needs to learn what went wrong in the past couple of years and how to prevent the same thing from happening on the upcoming car. Hamilton could have given a bit more of a precise answer with his crash, so it was obviously a thing that Ferrari might have hoped they could receive from the Brit. When talking about 2025 and the competitiveness of the car, the team principal of Ferrari, Vasseur, said, "If it will be competitive, we'll find out in Bahrain. Sometimes you don't realize you're taking risks until afterward. The car will be completely new. I think we will have less than 1% of the parts in common with the 2024 car. It's a different project. But the same applies to everyone. We can't say now if 2025 will be our year, but I trust the project. We're working on it. It will still be an intense challenge like the one we just completed. I am very proud of how we tackled difficulties, but we must take another step towards consistency." So, what do you think? Is Hamilton's aggressive testing approach a sign of Ferrari's potential resurgence in 2025, or are there still hurdles to overcome? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.